as the story goes, was in a bar with several coworkers, and they commented that Steve can make anything interesting. So, here to talk about fine particles of matter that float in the air, Steve.
It's true. And I've taken it on as a challenge. But first I want to start with a little story about a famous American. Someone so famous and loved, he's on t-shirts everywhere. I'm talking about Pigpen. You know Pigpen from Charlie Brown, the Peanuts comic strip? He's the little guy that walks around in a cloud of dust, fine particles of matter floating around. Well, he's walking down the street, and Charlie Brown thinks to himself, says, gee, it just occurred to me that some of this dust on Pigpen could be some very famous dust from ancient civilizations. There could be dust on Pigpen right now that Solomon trod on, or maybe King Nebuchadnezzar, or maybe Genghis Khan. Pigpen is standing up straight and tall, feeling a bit royal, and he turns to his friends and says, makes you want to give me a little more respect, doesn't it? Well, today I want to give a little bit more respect to dust. The challenge was, he can even make dust sound interesting. So dust, it's everywhere. It's here all around us. We're breathing it in. It's in our houses right now, falling down onto our chairs and our tables and our lamps that sometime soon we're going to have to dust off. But dust, you hear lots of terms and phrases about dust. From dust to dust. Right? We hear that sometimes at funerals. And that has its origins in the Holy Bible. God formed man out of dust and breathed life into him. And how about the phrase, let's just let the dust settle? Or, I'm going to pick myself up and dust myself off. Right? Well, these phrases that I'm sure all started in reality. At some point, somebody had a really dusty job and couldn't move on because there was too much dust in the air. Right? But now, what do? We use that phrase on days after elections, when the whole country is wondering, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Well, we need to step back and let the dust settle. It means we need to take a deep breath. We have to wait for everything to calm down, the confusion to end, so we can see things clearly, and then move on in the next endeavor. And how about I have to pick myself up and dust myself off? Well, we've all been in the trenches, right? We've all been down and dirty when life is beating us down and we're just sitting in our hole. We're just waiting for stuff to get better. And finally, where you're like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of this. I'm going to get up, I'm going to dust myself off, and I'm going to go on. I'm going to carry on. Right? So dust gives us hope. It gives us the ability to persevere, to say, you know what? I know it's dusty, I know it's dirty, but I'm going to go on. Now, my wife and I, on occasion, like to watch the Antiques Roadshow. Anybody ever see that show? Yeah, it's a great show. No matter where they do it all over the country. I even saw one that was filmed in London. And wherever they go, they have hundreds, sometimes thousands of people that show up. And you know what those people do the day before or the day of? They go into their attics. And they go through the cobwebs and the dust and the dirt. And they go into their basements or to their barn or to some closet that they haven't been to the back of in many, many years. And they find their stuff. And they bring it to the Antiques Roadshow, where some expert is going to look at their thing. Look what I have. And they're hoping that it's not just a thing, right? They're hoping it's more than that. Now, what happens? I look at this, I'm like, man, I wouldn't spend $2 on that. I don't know why the hell they would pick that up and say, yeah, I'm going to buy this. It's beyond me. But lo and behold, the person picks it up and they look it over and they're looking for signs and little clues that tell them, where was this made? What it's made out of? Is there a signature on it if it's a piece of art? Maybe who owned it? Was this owned by a king or a queen or a president? Now they take this dirty, dusty old thing and they put it up on the pedestal for the reveal, right? And they say, well, how much did you spend for that? Oh, I spent $10 on that. spent $1 on that thing. Well, let me tell you, if you take that thing and you get it professionally cleaned, and they get that grime and the years worth of dust, sometimes decades or centuries worth of dust, and clean it up, that item at auction will go for $50,000. I'm like, honey, do you believe it? This thing, $50,000. I couldn't believe it. But the dust that was on that item did not depreciate it. It did not lower its value. In fact, that dust protected it. It preserved it. And after it got all cleaned up, it is revealed to be a treasure. Now, I didn't say it becomes a treasure. I didn't say it's transformed into a treasure. It's revealed to be. So how does this apply to us? I always think about that. Where's the lesson? Right? Well, we've all been sitting in our little hole at times, right? We get up and we dust off and we clean up, just like that piece of art. And someday, we stand in front of the mirror. We look at ourselves and we're a little discouraged sometimes. But you know what? A little bit of cleaning up, a little bit of polishing, a little bit of shaving off the rough ends. I hope someday you can look in the mirror and look at your own reflection and say, wow, there in front of me, revealed